Hey, precious rubies. Good afternoon. Sorry I'm so late for you today. It was a little bit out of my control. So, my apologies, firstly. But happy that I'm able to sit in with you today. And it is a pleasure, as always, to sit in and share with you. I hope that it has been a good day for you, and I hope that you have had a productive day. I have had a productive day. I've managed to do a little bit of business making, if that makes sense. I've been able to make some new items for my little small business that I started about a year ago, and I've been able to get at it again because I'm again on a break from school. I did my final exam for that course just this week, Wednesday. So I managed to put some time into the business, and that small business, I just want to say here, that small business is baby accessory fairy _21. That's my small business page. I have not been able to post much since I started. I've been making sales, thanks be to God, but I have not been able to post much because of time, as well as the demands and stuff like that. So if you go over and you follow that page and you're not seeing much posted, forgive me. In due time, I hope to be able to do some more posting, but for now, that's just where it is at. And so I'm just trying to balance my time. It's a lot that I have to balance, and it's like I ain't got much time, but every time I get a break from school, I try to do that, as well as I try to sit in with you lovely people. Thank you for those of you who are joining with me live today. I appreciate you. Remember to share with a friend, a loved one, your spouse, your neighbor, even your co-worker, that they too can be inspired and encouraged and can walk into transformation, to walk too into their value and their victory like I am. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for those two who will be joining on the replay. I appreciate you all. Today is gonna be a little quick and spicy. And today I want to start off by sharing about a research story. So two researchers years ago did a research on some dogs, and the dogs were separated. So they had like 3 groups of dogs. So one set of dogs, or one group of dogs, they were in a cage. They were there in the cage until they were released out of the cage. The second group of dogs, they were in a cage too, but in their cage there was something a little different. In their cage, what happened is that the researchers set up the cage in such a way that they would be shocked, like electrocuted, but they had a way of escape. So what they did was they placed a button within that cage so that the dogs could press that button, and when they press the button, they would have recognized that, hey, we can escape this electric shock, so let's do it, let's go for it, right? So there was a way of escape for them. The third group of dogs, they were too placed in a cage, but in their cage there was no button. So each time they would be electrocuted, it would just happen, and that's it. So what would happen to that group of dogs is that they would become normalized to the electric shock. There was no way of escape, was what they told themselves. There was no way to get out. So we're just going to take the shock. We're just going to stay here and just be shocked our life out, right? Dogs can't talk like human beings, but I'm just imagining, maybe that's just how they're thinking. They're just helpless. There's no way to escape. I share that research story because of what I'm going to be talking about today. And what I'm going to be talking about today is learned helplessness. Now, that is a psychological term that is used in psychology when individuals have come to believe that their situation or they themselves are helpless. And they may believe this and because of becoming climatized, desensitized, or normalized to their situation, and especially the negative situation. Because as I made mention with the 3 groups of dogs, the dog that was in the cage, the dogs rather, that were in their cage, whenever they're shocked, electrocuted, they would eventually become helpless or feel helpless or think that they are helpless. There's no way of escape because it was something negative that was happening to them. It wasn't something that was bringing pleasure. It wasn't something that was making them happy. It wasn't something that was making them comfortable. So therefore, in a similar way with human beings, this is what it's about. And in research, let me just state this too, in researches, a lot of the researches that are done, they are done in animals, likewise in humans, or a lot of the experiments or researches that are done on animals, there is or can be a link in the cognitive processes, the behavioral experiences, and things like that. So you'll find that whenever researches are done, when they are done on animals, some researches are done on animals, then there is a possibility that what is found, if they should do some of these researches in humans, they may find some of the responses, reactions, behaviors, or cognitive processes to be similar. And some time ago, I've shared in one of my posts about rats. So rats is one of the animals that has over 90% matched DNA to humans. That's kind of creepy, right? Because a lot of individuals, I'm sure, don't like rats, and we think that they're messy creatures. But these rats that are used in experiments, they are not the rats that we see running up and down in garbages out in the streets and things like that. These are rats that are specially bred for experimental purposes. Hence, they are fitting to do the researches and not the rats that we see running up and down out on the streets, right? And to get back to the story, or to get back to what I'm sharing on today, with the animals, with the dogs, and the helplessness, in a similar way, human beings learn helplessness due to situations, negative situations that they may experience. And what also happens is that with individuals thinking, feeling, or believing that they're helpless, it can have a great negative impact on their life period. Yeah? So you may know of a friend, a family member, or just someone you associate with, a co-worker, a neighbor, somebody you may associate with, and you may observe some of their behavior in what I'm sharing today, and you may even ask yourself the question, and you might be wondering, or let me ask you the question this way: have you ever asked yourself, why is my friend, family, or someone I know seems to be helpless, or they seem to have a reduced or lost the ability to experience pleasurable things. Maybe you know someone who is like that, whom they just don't see nothing good happening, then believe nothing good can happen, nothing is gonna change, nothing is gonna get any better, all because of maybe they try, and every time they try, they probably consider themselves as failure, because each time they try at something, they have not become successful. Each time they've trusted individuals, they've been hurt, they've been betrayed. Each time they attempt to do good, each time they attempt to do something, it just doesn't work out. They're probably in a relationship and things are just not going right. Things just seem to be going crazy. Things just seem to be a little bit what should I say, unstable. And in relationships, we all experience challenges, we all experience conflicts. And conflicts, by the way, guys, is not a bad thing altogether. There are some positives or pluses to conflicts. However, there are some relationships that when the negative, or let me rephrase, there are some relationships when challenging situations arises, the results have not been good that they have been receiving. So for example, there might be a couple, and in the relationship they might be abused, for example, and each time this individual is being abused, they probably would hear from the abuser that I love you. They probably will be hearing from the abuser, I care for you, I don't want to lose you. Yes? And the individual who is being abused may come to believe this lie, may come to believe that, hey, how is it that I may have a question, who is it that this person says that they love me but they abuse me? But because they have become so normalized to the abuse and have now associate the I love you, the I care for you, the I don't want to lose you statement, they've come to believe that and associate it with, to say, hey, if the person does not abuse me, then maybe they don't care for me. In my case, I don't think I was really thinking to say, oh, maybe my spouse at the time didn't care for me. You know, but as an individual who was abused years ago as a young teenager, a young teenage mom at that, I believe that foolishness. So let me just tell you here, if you are someone who is watching or will be watching and you have been abused and you think that, hey, you're the only one, you're not the only one who have been abused. But let me just say right here, I don't call myself a victim, I am a victor. And I was abused. However, I have learned, I have recognized at some point that this was not true love. That's not what love is, and that's not what the word of God says love is. But they also too say that love is blind. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Ain't no love is no blind nothing. You have been blinded by your own desires and foolishness. Yeah. And so I want to say again, thank you for those who are joining. Hey, I see you. Thank you, guys. Please feel free to share your questions and your comments, right? And let me just continue by saying that that's just one example of learning helplessness. You think that there's no way of escape. Mind you, for some individuals to escape abuse, it may be more difficult than it was for me. And what I mean by that is sometimes there are persons who may have been in abusive relationship or are in abusive relationship, and it may be harder to escape because being threatened, feeling more fearful because maybe this individual may, threaten to kill your kids or something of that nature. It may be more difficult for you. So who am I to sit here and say that, there's just nothing that's gonna change or something like that? But it can change. Yeah, it can change. Believe me, it can change. It doesn't matter what you're in, it can change. Remember I talked about the group of dogs who there was a way of escape, and God always makes a way of escape for us. I'm preempting myself. I'm running a little ahead of myself, so let me just take it nice and slow, right? Now, for the individuals who you may know who have learned helplessness, it's easy sometimes for us to look in on the individual and just think they're just so stupid, why are they just allowing all these things to happen? The mind is so powerful that when we become sensitive to or normalize the things that is not normal, it becomes normal for the individual. I hope I'm making sense right here. Let me know if I'm making sense. So with the brain or our mind can be reprogrammed, can be retrained, and the Word of God says to renew our minds. So that means it is possible for this cognitive process to be interfered with. It can be intercepted. The cognitive processes, the cognitive thoughts rather, can be intercepted. And in looking at an individual who may be going through, and I'm going to really hit on relationships, who may be in relationship, not just abusive physically, it could be verbal abuse relationships, it could just be emotional abuse relationships, it could be just a relationship that is just draining you, a relationship that is just depleting you, a relationship that is adding no value to you, a relationship that is not provoking you to be the best version of yourself. So that's where I want to hit the nails, right? And you may be looking, it may be easier for you. Some of us, it may be easier. Yes, when I was younger, I fall short right there, and that's because I was a mature one mentally, I wasn't mature emotionally, I wasn't mature physically, and I was not mature spiritually. So therefore, these two could possibly be some of the reasons why these individuals, may be seeming helpless. So I want to encourage you that if you know someone who seems to be helpless or have learned helplessness, to be patient with them. One, you may have been patient and you're thinking they're just not interested in trying to get help. You probably have encouraged them to do that, to walk away and things like that. If you have done all that you can to help them and it seems like nothing you do is helping, keep in mind that you have done all that you can, and just hope and pray that they will see the light and seek help and walk away from the situation that is so depleting, right? And one of the other things I want to state is that when an individual have learned helplessness, the belief system have been impaired. The belief system have been interfered with. Yeah, because we were not created to be in relationships that are abusive. We were not created to sit in relationships that would, as we would say in Jamaican terms, suck us dry. We were not created to be in relationships that would just take everything away from us. No, God created Adam and Eve helpmates. Hello, helpmates. So that means if you're in a relationship, or when you're in a relationship, it means that both individuals should be helping each other. It means that if it means that the finances are supposed to be coming together, if one is emotionally stronger or physically, financially, mentally, spiritually stronger, that person should be helping the other to come up hither. Yeah. And if it is that the other individual is stronger in doing the physical things, cleaning the house, taking care of the baby, taking the baby to school if there are children involved, helping with the chores at home, stuff like that. So those simple things. So I'm just stating those simple things, just throwing it in there to say that when we're in relationships, there ought to be a balance. These things are balances. These are how we find our way of balance in relationships, when we can come together and help each other. Yeah. And with the belief system being thwarted or impaired, what is happening is that the individual believes that I've been in this situation for so long, then why bother move on? Why bother try to start over another relationship? And I hear this a lot. Today I see and hear people who are close to me, women who are close to me, who are fearful to move on from a relationship that is depleting them, a relationship that has caused them to no longer see their original self. What has happened to them, because the relationship has depleted them so much, they have now take on this image, an ugly image, one, because some do not see themselves as a beautiful woman externally or internally anymore. Something that I've just invested so much of my time in this relationship, and so I cannot afford to start over when all my time, my energy, my finance, all my resources, even kids have now come into the picture. It's difficult, and yes, it is difficult, but there is a way of escape. I'll say that again. There is a way of escape. And so this is what happens when an individual have learned helplessness. They will sit in relationships that are no longer, it may not have even added any value to begin with, bearing any fruit, good fruit, or even if it did, it's no longer producing fruit. So in a relationship, we're supposed to always be bearing good fruit, not just any fruit, but good fruit. We're supposed to be producing good fruits. So if the relationship started off, and children is a blessing, they are fruits, of course, or they are fruit of the womb. You started off there, or you started off being married, you maybe, as I mentioning earlier, one person is spiritually more mature than the other. The one who is not so spiritually mature, you should now see that individual. You should now see yourself start growing spiritually. You should see yourself start growing emotionally, physically. You should see yourself start growing financially. The different areas that you can grow, you should see yourself growing, producing. If you did not know who you are, like I did not know who I was until I started seeking God years ago in who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? If you were like me, who I struggled in knowing who I was at that time, you too can know who you are. So in being in a relationship, this is what your relationship is supposed to be about, producing good fruit. You're supposed to be in a relationship that would emulate the characteristics of Christ, that should emulate the great attributes. I'm not saying I have it all together. Don't think that I do. I don't. I'm a work in progress, and I actively, literally actively work on me and work to improve and be the best version of myself in every area. It's my responsibility to do that. And of course, my husband has played a great role in helping me to be the best woman that I am today, because he would come poking. I thought it was annoying. I thought it was like, just leave me alone in my head. Let me just take my time until I get there. Sure, it takes patience. It takes time sometimes. For us, we need time sometimes and patience and that kind of a thing. But there are sometimes when our patience will cause us to be too slow like a turtle. So that means we'll be seeming like we're going somewhere, but it seems like also we're going nowhere. So sometimes we need someone who will poke us, who will prick us, who will nudge us and say, listen, it's time for you to get up. It's time for you to walk, like that man who was at the pool at at the pool. I don't remember the name of that place. At the pool in, I don't remember the name of that place. And when the angel came and stirred the pool in John chapter 5, and stirred the pool, and Jesus asked the man, why you not move? Why you not gone into the pool? What happened to you? And he was like, every time I try, somebody just go ahead of me. So that is us sometimes as individuals, where because we've experienced this thing, we become normalized to thinking and believing that, hey, listen, it doesn't make any sense, I try again, because every time I try, there's always someone else who is going ahead of me. Because someone else is always going ahead of us, or it seems like we're always at the back of the line, it does not mean that we won't be in the front at one point or at some point in time. It doesn't mean that, because the Bible says that the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Hello? So sometimes it does take patience and time, but then we have to be practical. We have to be actively pursuing that version of ourselves, that best version. So with the help of my husband in asking some provocative question, in giving me what's it called, like a booklet with self-actualization and all these things, and I will be talking some deep up things about that self-actualization thing somewhere down the line in our live stream, right? And with that, I struggled. It's not that I did not want to be the best version, but I struggled. So sometimes we have people around us who are struggling, and they're genuinely struggling, and there's a difference with that as opposed to someone who has learned helplessness and is just not trying and is not making an effort to try, to do and to be better, and to recognize that their situation can change, good can come out of it. Yeah? And one of the other things with individuals when they think that nothing will change, because every time I try, I just keep failing. Every time I try, someone else goes ahead of me, like the man at the pool. Every time I start over a relationship, I keep meeting the bad people. I keep meeting the people who cannot be trusted. I keep meeting the people who just keeps taking away from me. They're takers and not givers. I keep meeting friends who are just takers and not givers. I keep meeting, persons who that I think I can share with and give and be open with, but they're just there for themselves, what they can gain. And so one has to also be very mindful of things like that. And there's always some sign, signal, symbol that is indicating the type of relationships we're entering into, and the type of relationships that we want, that we truly need to enter into, that our heart is really crying out for. Because sometimes we know what we want in our heart, but sometimes we allow the desire of our flesh to get in the way. Need not say no more right here, right? So with the belief system, sometimes there may be opportunities present before these individuals who have learned helplessness. There may be tools for these individuals who have learned helplessness. There may be other resources that these individuals can have access to in order to improve themselves or their relationships. But because of the learned helplessness, they have become blindsided in recognizing or identifying the resources available. I hope I'm making sense right here, right? And one of the other things with learned helplessness is that there may be pleasurable activities that these individuals just does not find pleasurable anymore. So for example, These individuals may be persons who enjoyed going to the movies, going to have a drink with the girls, going to have a drink with the guys, going to visit friends, families, going to the beach, going for a walk, working out, treating yourself to something special, something that you love. It can be anything. It could be even intimacy with your husband. And all of this may be reduced because of experiencing the same thing over and over and over. You no longer respond positively to these things because of the negative impact that the negative situations have had on you. Yeah? And what this indicates, when an individual has little to no interest at all in pleasurable activities, it indicates, according to the cognitive process, that hypohedonia, I hope I'm pronouncing this word right, is present. And what that means is that there is an abnormal reduction in enjoying pleasurable activities. And sometimes too, genetics can play a role in learned helplessness. So, for example, some individuals, when we were kids growing up, some of us, we may have grown up in homes that we don't see daddy making an effort actively, consistently to do anything around the house to help. He may have been laid off from his work, may have been fired for one reason or another, and he may have tried getting jobs. After that, may have not been successful, and may have just given up and said, listen, I can't bother. Every time I go apply for your work, them turn me down. He could even be very qualified. I can't bother. Them turn me down. It never makes sense. But that's waste my time. I not waste my time. I not waste my bus fare. Go there, go walk up and down and look no work, and I not get no work. So the child seeing this model before them, possibly the child may come to not actively making an effort to do something to help themselves. Another simple example could be when our children are growing up at a young age, they reach a stage, whenever they reach the stage where they feel like they can become independent, they want to start button up their clothes, they want to choose their clothes, they want to put on their shoes, they want to pack their lunch bag, and they may not do it as good as how we would as parents, but please allow them to help. Allow them to exercise their God-given ability. Allow them to exercise their what should I say? To use up their cognitive process. Because what you're doing when you allow them to, it's building courage, it's building strength, it's building confidence, it's building trust, and it's helping them to be able to become independent later on in life, where they'll be able to make decisions independently, and they won't feel like, I can't do this. And sometimes this is where our children learn these things from. I can't do this, or I don't know how to do it, because they didn't see anybody model it before them. So they struggle. Or even if it was modeled before them, those who did it, sometimes they did not allow them to actively practice their skills. So therefore it becomes challenging for them as they get older in life to make certain decisions and to learn to do certain things on their own. I don't think it could get any simpler than that. So sometimes these things too can attribute to learned helplessness. Yeah. And so I'm gonna be closing with these wonderful questions. that I would love for you to ask yourself today. Or better yet, let me state this part first. That some of the effects of learned helplessness can lead to 1. Frustration. So you keep trying, you keep failing. Of course, it's natural. You may feel like you're frustrated. That is a natural part of being a human being. But when you would have become frustrated, are you gonna just throw in the towel, or are you gonna try again? I promise you it's worth another try. You know why it's worth another try? And this is why it's good to have good supporters. This is why it's good to be in relationships where individuals will help you to build and to develop, will push you at times out of your comfort zone. Like the man at the pool. When Jesus said to him, "Why you not move?" Layman terms, may I paraphrase, right? St. John chapter 5. "Why you not move?" And the man say, again, "Every time I try to make a move, somebody going before me." Jesus said to him, "You need to move. Get up, walk, move, do something." So what does that say? That says that it is not over or done, or you're not done. Your life is not at an end just yet. Only unless you do not get up, only unless you do not walk, only unless you do not rise, only unless you do not attempt to try again. So it shows you that it's important to try again. Even when you would have become frustrated, try again. Learned helplessness can also lead to becoming stressed out. Yeah. That's 2 is a natural response to situation, negative situation. Depression may even set in. If depression set in, you're in trouble, my friend. Please, if you find yourself at the stage of feeling stressed, get help, speak with someone who can help to guide you in the right direction. Yeah? Learned helplessness can also lead to, yes, I see you, Shelley, Miss Shelley M. Ritchie. I see you. Depression. It is a killer. I'm happy that you made your comment because it provokes me to just draw back a little. Depression, when we become so stressed and depression sets in, what can happen? Not only is the relationship that we're in depleting us when it's not bearing any fruit or producing much fruit, what will happen is that outside of the relationship depleting us, draining us, we're pouring in and we're not getting anything back out. What will happen later is we find that the physical man now is becoming even more drained. So you find blood pressure start go up. You find some persons anxiety sets in. You find some persons the blood sugar level gone. You find some persons start having chest pain, heart issues. You find that all these different things start happening, and before you know it, the individual could be hospitalized. So it is important that persons who may be struggling in or with rather learned helplessness, try your best to help them as much as you possibly can. I know as it states, learned helplessness, sometimes no matter what the opportunity, as I stated earlier, is present, they don't see it, they don't care, they have no interest in seeking out the opportunity, they have no interest in using the tools that you may bring to them, the resources that you may come carry right at their feet. They may have no interest. I absolutely understand. But until you've tried, all else fails. Learned helplessness can also lead to demotivation. If we're demotivated, then of course there is no interest. I have no care. It don't matter. I'm just not motivated. It's neither here nor there. Nothing else matters more than just me sitting right here. So and of course, when we're demotivated, there's nothing that strikes our interest. There's nothing that we look forward to. There's no goal that we're aiming at. There's no objective. There's no boundary. There is no there's nothing. There's no purpose in doing anything at all. Yeah. One of the other things that learned helplessness can lead to is a lack of hope. And once hope dies, everything dies. If an individual looks to nothing, has hope that nothing will turn around, it's dead. Unless God steps in and intervene, it's done dead. So it's important to keep hope alive, no matter how stressful the situation is, no matter how challenging the situation is. Keep hope alive that there is a way of escape. You will escape it, because God always make a way of escape. Sometimes the escape is looking right at us and we refuse to go. Those dogs, because they were so used to the shocking, the door open and them no budge. Them just there like just getting the electrocution, like, oh my God, I don't know what else to do. I'm just gonna stay here and just get electrocuted. That's it. When the door was open, they could have escaped, but they did not see that opportunity. Yeah? But I'm here to tell you the good side of it all is that after you've learned helplessness, you can unlearn it. Remember I talked earlier about how the brain or the mind can be reprogrammed, can be retrained. Yeah? You can do this. You can unlearn it. The first thing, I believe I can say this is one of my motto. Change your mal. Your mal, M-A-L. Your mal. It's an abbreviation that I came up with that means change your mindset, change your action, and change your language. So firstly, the cognitive thoughts has to change. It has to be renewed. How are you going to do this? You're going to renew your mind. You're going to change your thought processes by declaring positive things, by speaking life, by believing that things will get better, by surrounding yourself with individuals who will encourage you, who will speak life into you. Yes? Change your action. If you're doing things the same way, you have to evaluate this. You have to critically analyze your actions. Be your worst and best critique. Be the first person to critique your attitude. And of course, we have biases, so there are times when we may criticize or analyze ourselves and think that we did a good job when we really didn't. And if we're to be honest with ourselves, it was really a lousy thing. So it is important to be your worst critique. And what I mean by this, I'm not contradicting myself here by saying that, because what I'm saying is, when I say be your worst critique, is to, if you've been doing something one particular way, and you've been doing it 50 times, and it's the same, you've been doing it the same way, it is now time for you to truly analyze it and say, hold on, this procedure I'm using, the method I'm using, I've been using it for so long, I've been doing it for so long, and it has not been giving me any good result. Therefore, I think it's now time for me to do away with this method or with this procedure, because it has not given me any good results for every time that I've tried it. So that's what I mean when I say be honest with yourself and be your worst critique. Be your best critique by saying, I may have done this, I may not have gotten it right, I may have made some bad decisions or choices. However, I can make better ones. So that's what I mean by saying your best and your worst critique. Yeah? Change your language. It all intertwines. When you start speaking positively, when you start declaring that the best thing will happen, you will start seeing these things happen. So all three works together. Change your mal. Another way you can unlearn helplessness is to evaluate the situation and measure the facts against the fallacies. You again have to look at the situation and ask yourself honestly, what are the facts that I'm looking at? You're in a relationship and this individual is always taking away from you. And the person may be good looking, may be handsome. Your spouse may be a handsome dude. Your spouse, on the other hand, the female may be beautiful, and that's fine. But outside of the beauty, because it will fade one day, as the word of God says, beauty will fade and we will wither like the flowers on the grass of the field. So it will fade, beauty will fade, and this what we look at, it go wither. So we have to look beyond this. The beauty on the outside. What is the beauty? Is there a beauty? Is this on the outside reflecting truly what is on the inside? Perhaps not. So we have to evaluate these things and ask ourselves the question, the factual question. How has this person, over the years, this person have not contributed positively to this relationship? So why am I still in it? Maybe they have contributed positively in the earlier years of the relationship. Let's say, for example, you've been together for 10 years. The first 2 years, the relationship was producing. But for the last 8 years, there's more depleting that's been happening. That's something now that you ought to carefully measure and evaluate and question and ask yourselves, what are the facts that are present before me against the fallacies? Yeah. One of the other ways you can unlearn helplessness is by focusing on what you can control. Now, oftentimes as individuals, we want to try to change people. We want to get them to do things and to be how we want them to be and to do. But it doesn't work that way. I too have been guilty of trying that for years, and it just frustrates me. So that's going to lead to more frustration. And bear in mind, we're trying to unlearn helplessness, right? So in doing this, you focus on what you can control. It's challenging, I know. I've fallen prey to this many a times. But each time I fall prey to it, I have to remind myself that I cannot control people's behavior. I cannot control their action, neither can I control what is coming out of their mouth, which is flowing from their heart. So what you can control, though, is what you think. You can control what you say. You can control what you do, which is your mal. You control what you think, your mind. You can control your action, your behavior. You can control your language, what you say. So you should focus rather on what you can control, what you can do something about, what you can change, and not what you cannot change or do anything about. And there's always something that we can do to improve our situation, right? Another way we can unlearn helplessness is by going internally. And the internal processing is so much more powerful than the external. What do I mean by this? We have so much power. We have so much courage on the inside. Yes, I'm so happy that you learned something. I'm so happy we're all here to learn. We're all here to learn. I too have learned so much along the way. I was not like this. I was not this victorious woman you're looking at today who is now walking in value and victory. This woman who has so much confidence. I was not like this. And I'm not talking about so long ago. But God just do a work in me, and I was so hungry for a change. I was so hungry for a turnaround. I was so determined too. Persistent in pursuing that woman, the hidden treasure on the inside of me, so that I can walk into my purpose. And when we know our purpose, when we know who we are and we walk in our purpose, listen, value and victory straight off, confidence but turn up right off. So just get this today, my ladies. Get this today, my men who are watching, who will be coming across this stream today. Get this. When you know who you are, you know purpose, the devil now have nothing for you. Nobody now have nothing for you when you know who you are. I can guarantee you this. So pursue her, pursue him, pursue that version. Yeah? So as I was stating, that the internal processing, when you go on the inside, it's so much powerful than on the outside. Oftentimes we'll hear, when we allow people to get upset and allow people to make a day spoil and just miserable and all these kind of things, we're giving them the power. But if we go internally and recognize that, hold on, if I'm allowing them on the outside to have that much power, to just making my day so mad, they've upset me so much that my entire day is messed up, is what some people declare. I don't declare those things, because nobody going to spoil my day like that. You get me upset in the early morning, the start of the day, that's fine. After that, I'm blowing you right out of my spirit, so you can blow with the wind as the chaff has been blown away. Yeah? And again, see, there I'm talking about, you gotta change your language. Good. So, when we go inside and we evaluate and we feel all these things that we're feeling and we process them, when we're able to identify, we can be true to ourselves with the different things that we've encountered emotionally, psychologically, and physically and spiritually, we're in a better space and place. We can take more control or have more power over the choices that we make. Yeah? And lastly, another way to unlearn helplessness is to ask yourself the question, are my failed efforts greater than my attempts? That's a very powerful one to close on. Let me say it this way again. Ask yourself the question, are my failed efforts greater than my attempts? A lot of times we tend to focus sometimes too more on the failures than anything else. Sometimes our failures, yes, they may be greater than the attempts, meaning we try, like the man again at the pool, him say every time somebody go before him. We try. Some of the most famous or wealthy individuals around the world, and we know the most famous story of KFC. This man did not become wealthy until he was in old age. There are several others who have attempted at a vision, an idea that they had, and each time they tried, they failed, but they never gave up. They kept rising and trying. So of course the failures are going to be more, but what is going to be the response to that last question you ask yourself? The response, of course, is going to be yes, my failures are greater than, or my failed efforts are greater than my attempts. But when you've made up in your mind to make another attempt, in the end, when you become successful at that attempt, it will override and it will supersede all the failures you have gone through or experienced. So do not look, or focus rather, do not focus on the failed efforts, but rather fix your mind on the attempts that you have made and celebrate them. Because what that would have meant is that every time you attempt, you have kept hope alive, and it means that every time you have attempted, there is a time or a chance or a season or an appointed moment that's coming around that you will be successful, that you will be healed, that you will be saved, that you will be delivered. As we can see in the story with the man at the pool, when Jesus said, "Arise, get up, walk, and go," this man was healed after being afflicted for 38 years. That's a long time. Sometimes too we may think after a person has learned helplessness, it may seem like there's nothing that's ever gonna happen, there's no turnaround. Sometimes it may look dead, and let's be honest, but keep hope alive and you will definitely live, and not just live, but you can experience an abundant life. I enjoyed sharing with you today. I thank you for being with me today. I thank you for sharing your comments, and I thank you for expressing that this has been a blessing to you, that you have walked away with a nugget or two that has been a blessing and inspiration, or will help you to walk into transformation. Don't forget to share, don't forget to follow, and don't forget to go over to my YouTube channel at Aura Woman of Worth Francis, and to subscribe and also to share. Not everyone is on Instagram, so if you know someone who is not on Instagram and you believe that these streams can help them and they can find them, they can have access to the channel very easily on YouTube, go ahead, feel free and share with them. I love you, but God loves you more. Have a great week. Shalom. Bye bye.